Good morning and welcome to Puppy Steps Training. I'm Brad Phillips. We're going to be doing Gary's demonstration for you today. He's just finished up and getting ready to head out hopefully this weekend. Very excited for Gary to go home. He really is a great dog. We're going to go through the whole demonstration now. We're going to talk about a few of the things. We're going to talk about our whole program, and then I'm going to really emphasize a few things that we've really focused on with Gary and how you can continue with that, and how to make sure that he's going to respond the same way for you as he does for me. So just a couple things before we get started, and of course there are a few things that I like to remind everyone. First of all, he is still a puppy. There is going to be some maturing there. There's also going to be some times where he's going to test the water. The important thing is to remember that with any dog, with any type of training, consistency is the key. If you're consistent on making sure that he's rewarded when needed and corrected when needed. We set a standard that for the first year of a dog's life, it should be rewarded for correct behaviors as close to 100% of the time as possible. Now, reward doesn't always mean food. It can mean toys, it can be compassion. But if you can make sure that you're as close to 100%, that those behaviors are going to become muscle memory, where they just do them out of respect and without even really thinking about it for you. A few other things. There is a transition time as he comes into your home, and so make sure that you're patient with him as well as you develop a relationship and help him understand and realize that you expect the same thing from him as I do. Also, throughout the demonstration, you'll hear me use the word okay. A reminder, that is our marker word. Marks the correct behavior, releases from a stay. Also, if he does something, an incorrect behavior, you may hear me use the word no, which is our correction term. We treat that kind of like a misdemeanor felony type of deal. If he does something wrong, he is going to get corrected. Now, depending on how harsh of a correction is depending on the behavior that he did. If he does something simple like breaks a stay, I'll tell him no and I'll have him do it again. However, if he does something a little bit more serious, whether he jumps on me, tries to steal food, something like that, I'm going to adjust my voice and my body language. If you can give him those adjustments in your voice fluctuation and your body language, that means more to him than any type of physical correction that you can do. So we'll talk about socialization for a few minutes, and then we'll get into our manners. Then we'll cover our obedience commands, house training, and leash training. So now, socialization. Socialization is the most important step with any puppy. That's when you are going to be able to make sure that you don't have any anxiety or timid issues, things like that. And so right off the bat, we focus on that very heavily. We like to make sure that we have a controlled environment where we can introduce new people, new sounds, take them to new places, animals, kind of a whole different array of new situations. And by doing that in a controlled environment, we can help them be comfortable in those uncomfortable situations. And that way you aren't going to have any anxiety problems or timid problems. That's also when any type of aggression is going to come out, and that's how we realize and we can start training it. So, and we really do focus on that throughout the whole program, making sure that different textures are he's being trained on different textures. Making sure that he's socialized with other dogs, with other people, children, animals, and that he's going to be comfortable around that. Now we'll jump into our manners, and I'll let him out, and we'll start going through the program. So first things first with our manners would be our gates and our doorways. So anytime he comes out of the crate, uses a door, I expect him to hold a stay. Should be an automatic behavior. I should never have to actually tell him to stay. If he does break, I might simply close the door or block him with my leg and remind him what we're doing. If for some reason he is just very persistent on coming out, then I might actually tell him to stay. But for the most part, I should never have to. And so we are going to let him out now. Okay, good boy, good boy. So I'll show you the house door when we go outside, but our next manner is what he just did right here. We call it his greeting. Anytime he approaches me, or I call him over, I expect him to sit before I'm going to give him any attention. Once he does sit, then I'll go down and I'll introduce myself, or I'll pet him, or give him loves, anything like that. But when he sits, it does two important things. One, it keeps him from jumping on you or wrapping you up with the leash. And the second would be you get his eye contact. If you have his eye contact, you know that you have his attention. Dogs have that single track mind, so whatever they're looking at, that's what they're going to be thinking about. And so once you have that eye contact, you know he's focused. Oh, buddy. Good boy. So next, we will show you his mealtime manners. So anytime he eats, I'll put him in a sit stay. Stay. Now we have what are called the 3 Ds, and that's distance, duration, and distraction. Those 3 factors build a solid stay. And so talking is a huge distraction, increasing time, things like that. Okay, good boy, good boy. And so when you add those things, you can really build a solid stay. Now, during his meal, I spend a lot of time putting my hands down in his food bowl. And I'll back him up so you can see a little bit better. We'll have him hold just another short stay. Sit. Stay. Okay. Now the reason for this is I want to make sure that there's no aggression involved in his food. Now, so I make sure that I touch his muzzle, I'm just handling him. He's not being aggressive, he's not trying to swallow his food a little bit faster because I'm right here, but he's very comfortable with my hands down by his muzzle. And that's huge because I don't want any type of food aggression towards me. And that's the most important thing, is that there is no aggression pointing towards me. We know, we've talked quite a bit, that he does get a little possessive over toys and over bully sticks, things like that, towards other dogs, and he's just defending his property. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But towards me, there is no aggression, and that is huge. And that is the most important thing to me. Good boy. Now, with that aggression, I don't want it to be over. If there is any aggression towards me, I want to make sure that I combat against it. And his favorite thing in the world is bully sticks. And so I have a bully stick here. And just to show you, once again, doesn't matter whether it's food, bully sticks, toys, I don't want any aggression. So, just to show you that he's very comfortable me handling the bully stick in, around his mouth. I can ask him to drop it. Good boy. He has no issues with me being around. Now, I wouldn't suggest that with another dog that you have him chewing on a bully stick just to prevent any type of aggression, because he will defend it. If the dog's not imposing, of course he's fine. I've sent you videos of that. But if another dog tries to take it, he will defend it. And we've been working a lot on that, and he's done wonderfully. We've still got a few more things that we're going to work on. Some new tactics that we learned over the weekend, but he's just doing great. And we can give the other dog a bully stick and he'll relax, he's fine. But I just wouldn't necessarily try and push your limits there. And some aggression, like towards other dogs, like with territory, especially introducing new dogs, is an important role in the pack mentality. There has to be order. And so a little tussle between dogs is going to happen, and you just have to expect that. And you don't, I wouldn't intervene unless it gets kind of out of control. You want to make sure that it is controlled, but they have to have that little tussle. And so I'd let that happen, but I wouldn't let it get out of control, and I wouldn't provoke them by throwing in toys or bully sticks or things like that. Good boy. Now, dogs, of course, they love kids. Kids are like the greatest thing ever. They're perfect size, they run, they squeal, half the time they have food on their face, and so dogs just want to go and play along with the kids. And that's when a lot of behaviors are mistaken. for aggression, such as the dog wants to play, he's running around, knocks a kid over, ends up grabbing a sleeve or a pant leg, and they're just trying to play. And so just to prevent anything like that, with all of my dogs, if I have small children going to play, I'm going to direct them towards a toy. I want that kid to always have a toy. That gives them something they can dangle. He has something to go towards. If the kids get scared, they can throw it and give something for his attention to go towards. And that way he isn't going to grab a sleeve or a pant leg or anything like that. Which he does great around kids. I've had him around both my 2-year-old and my 1-year-old, and he loves them, and the kids love him. He's just done wonderful that way. But just something to divert his attention so he doesn't end up also going to lick their face and knocking him over in the neighborhood. Mom thinks your dog just bit him and there's issues. So I would just always have a toy that the kids can play with. Oh, buddy. And he, he's not huge on toys. He will go and play for a little bit, but he more so just likes to bring him back to the bed and chew on him. And chewing would be our next behavior, or our manner, which is really important for him. He's lost a lot of teeth over the last week, and he's still got a few more to go, and so because of that, he just needs to chew. And he's going to chew on different things based on what he feels his mouth needs. And so if he just needs to chew to relieve a little pressure, he might start chewing on something soft. And so replacing is a huge factor there. So if he goes over and starts chewing on his bed, on like a pillow, I'll replace it with something soft. Kind of match the texture. If he goes over and tries to chew on like a table leg or something hard, I'm going to give him a bully stick. And when I replace, I'll tell him no, and then I'll give him something of equal texture. And that way you're teaching him what's yours and what's his, giving him something to divert his attention to, other than what he's not supposed to be chewing on. Now the best way to avoid accidents, of course, is to not give them free access to shoes or to toys or anything that they can destroy. However, it's not really possible in your house. There's always something, and that's when replacing comes in. Now also with chewing, boredom is the #1 cause. And there's 2 types of boredom that cause chewing disasters. The first being you have a downtime, or he's alone, you're not doing anything with him, and so he's bored, he goes to start chewing on something. And so in that case, if I'm watching TV, he's laying on his bed, I'll just give him something to chew on. Something to relax, and he can just sit there and chew on it. That's the first type of boredom. The second part of boredom is boredom with his own things. And so that's why I never give them free access to their own toys or to bully sticks or anything that they like to chew on that you've given them. If I give a dog, like I just gave him this goose, if he got bored with it, he got up and left, immediately I'm going to pick that up, and that way he doesn't have free access. Some excitement's still going to be attached there when you pull it back out, as well as you're not going to get frustrated because he has all these toys and he's still trying to chew on something that you don't want him to. And that's the same if he ever leaves a bully stick, drop. I'm going to pick it up so he doesn't just have free access there. Good boy. While we're right here with this goose, I'll talk about drop it, which is another one of our manners. Now, drop it, I expect him to physically give up an object or a toy when I ask him. And so I'll just let him get a hold of it there, and I'll just tell him drop it, and I expect him to physically give it up. And he kind of knows it's coming, and so it doesn't matter what it is. If I want it from him, I just ask him drop it, and I expect him just to give it up. Never pull it away from him. You're going to end up pulling out a tooth or hurting him that way. I want him to physically open his mouth. Now, for some reason, I'll teach you a couple tricks that if he doesn't give it up. If it's long enough and you can have it on both sides and he's biting on it, I'll hold it really still, and then I'll start to drop it, turn my knuckles in, and you just pinch those lips against his canines. Cause a little discomfort, he'll spit it out. The other thing you can do is you can press the magic button. Dogs have a magic button, which is their tongue, and so if he has anything, you can stick your hand in there and use your thumb and push down on his tongue, and they'll automatically open up their mouth. So I call it their magic button, because regardless, they're going to open their mouth, whether they really want to give it up or not. Oh, good boy. Drop it. Good boy. And once again, I can show you that same thing with his bully stick. Come here. Because he does love those. And that's his favorite thing in the world. But he's definitely okay. He knows that if I tell him drop it, he has to give it up. That's a good boy. That's a good boy, huh? Good boy. So with jumping, we've spent a lot of time making sure that we really work on that command. And we've installed the word off. That is our command for if he jumps. And as soon as I say that, I expect him to get down. He should never put his paws on me. He should never jump up on me or furniture. And if he does, you tell him off, expect him to get down. Also, if you can grab his leash, we use a leash correction with that command if you can, off. And it's just 2 puffs on the leash. You're not pulling him down, you're not jerking him over backwards. It's just 2 puffs on the leash, making your presence known, telling him off. Now, important thing with jumping is that if he is running at you, he's going to jump, never step backwards. As soon as you step backwards, you're encouraging the jump. So I'll always step into the jump. Now what that does is it kind of sets you up for your next move. If he does continue to jump, which a lot of times they won't because you restricted that space, but if he does, you can bring up that knee and catch him in the chest and put him onto his back, which is a quick way to show leadership. And he knows that if he gets put on his back, that person is more of a leader over them. But tell him off, never let him put any paws on you. That is just absolutely not acceptable. Instead, this is the proper greeting to get attention. Come on, buddy. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. So, lastly with our manners would be gently, and that's just teaching him to be very cautious when he takes food. And so if he's real excited, I'll tell him before I even present it. But I'll always present the treat in the palm of my hand, never between the thumb and forefinger. And so I'll just tell him gently, and expect him to be very careful taking that treat. I never want to feel his teeth. And so definitely though, if he's excited, I'll tell him gently before, but gently. Good boy. And that's exactly what we want. So with that, we'll move into our obedience commands. So we're going to focus on 8 of our larger commands here, starting with come and watch me, and then we'll cover sit, sit, stay, down, down, stay, crate, and go to bed. So watch me is our kind of our fundamental command. We teach it from day 1, and all I'm looking for is his eye contact. And so if we get him to look away for a minute, watch me, okay, is all I'm looking for is him to look at me. And I'll have to throw that one in just randomly as well, just so you can see that he's not always just looking at me. But we've also started to teach his name the same way. And I'll say it the same way as well. Gary, okay, just looking for him to look up at me. And that's huge. Once again, if you have his eye contact, you have his attention. And so if you can get him to look at you, then you can present him with the next command. Watch me. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Second of our most basic commands would be the come command. And so all I'm looking there is for him to come to me. Maybe we'll try and distract him a little bit. Oh, okay, outside. So right now we're actually going to run him out to the bathroom. Outside. And he's also expected to wait at the door. Okay. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But going back to that command. Gary, come! Okay, good boy. That's exactly what I want, just him to come to me. Very, very simple command. Gary, come! Okay. But it's also one of the commands that everybody breaks right off. Or one of the first ones that they break, because you call your dog to come when he's having fun, but it's time to go home, it's time to leave that smell alone, or time to leave the park, something like that. And so they'll build up a negative association to the word, and then when they hear that word, then they're going to expect that it's time to go, fun's over, and so instead they'll turn around the other way. And so a couple things that we do there. One is practice it a lot in a controlled environment. When you have a leash, some way that you can make sure that he follows through with that command every time. And for the first year of his life, he's not allowed, like if you're out, I would just make sure that you have a form of correction. I wouldn't use that word unless you can make sure that he follows through. After a year of age, usually they get to the point where it is muscle memory, they're going to respond. But I don't want him to get the opportunity to play keep away from me, because then becomes a game and he's going to try and run. And so just make sure you're very strict with that command. Always practice it, and just make sure that if you take him, on a walk through the hills, something like that, he's on a long lead, and that way you can practice that command quite a bit during that time. Now, next command, which I'll take his bully stick away again. Good boy. The next three commands have hand signals, and so sit is a scoop over the nose. Down, I'll take my hand and go down, and stay is a stop sign. Come here. So sit, down, stay. Now if he's in a down stay, he's never allowed to come up. However, if he's in a sit stay, he's allowed to lay down. No. And if he breaks like that, we're going to have him do it again. Down. Stay. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Now, same thing with the sit stay. Come here. We'll turn him around. Sit. Hey, no, come here. Sit. Stay. And that's the other thing with the come command right there. If you don't have to use the word come, don't. Just using your lips or voice fluctuations like that are just as good. No. Hey, sit, stay. Okay, good boy, good boy. Definitely was getting a little distracted there, but I'm glad that he regained kind of focus on me, and that was great. Good boy. But never be satisfied with his stays. Always work to, lengthen those, add those 3Ds. And right now, he has a good stay for a puppy, but always try and build that up. So the next two commands, they don't necessarily have hand signals, but I'll always put myself in a position where he can read my body language. And so starting with crate, come here, crate, and I'll just point. If he hesitates, I might tap on the top, something like that. Now the crate command is another one that practice, practice, practice. Don't just use it when you're going to lock him up, or else soon he won't want to go on the crate because he knows the door is going to get locked. Okay, and so if I am going to put him to bed for the night, I'll do it, 10 times in a row. Crate. Good boy. Also, when he goes in, he is expected to stay until released. Okay, good boy. Now, same type of thing with go to bed. I'll just point, go to bed. Don't care what position he's in, as long as all 4 paws are on the bed, he's also expected to stay. Okay, good boy, good boy. So now we'll talk about his house training and his crate training. So we are going to do just a little bit more talking, so I'm going to give his bully stick back. But with crate training, so we have spent a lot of time making sure he is comfortable in the crate. And the crate is like your biggest asset, especially when it comes to house training. And I'll explain that in just a second. But with the crate training, right now he is good for up to 4 hours during the day without needing a break. And he'll sleep through the night 8 to 10 hours. Usually right now we put him to bed right around 10 o'clock and get him out between 6:30 and 7. Now, with that being said, this transition period that's about to happen often causes them to need to go to the bathroom more frequently, can cause some diarrhea. And so if in the middle of the night he does start to whine, he may just need to go to the bathroom. I would take him out on a leash, let him go, put him right back in. Make sure that you don't ever let him play when he's been whining in the crate, because then he's going to think that he can whine and get out and play. Now, with the house training in the crate, the reason I say use it as an asset is because the most critical part of house training is over the next month, 100% supervision in your house. You don't want to give him the opportunity to get lost or have an accident. And so if you can't give him that supervision, put him in the crate. He will be just fine. He's very comfortable in there. If you want, you can give him something to chew on, but he will be absolutely okay being in there. If you have to do it, you know, even if he's in there 15 minutes, out 30, in for another 15, you know, he'll be great in there. But if you have any questions, give me a call once again. But with his house training, now, a couple of critical things. Once again, use the crate as an asset, 100% supervision, and control his food and water a little bit while he's transitioning. Now, of course, as it gets warm, you want to make sure that he has plenty of water, and so after you transition him, of course, he can have a little bit more access. While he's here, we give him free access to water because we want him to go to the bathroom as much as possible. We want to make sure that we're really getting that house training. But when you get home, you want to stay ahead of the schedule, and so we feed him about 7:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock at night are his 2 meals. Depending on how much he gets worked with, we might throw another little meal in the middle of the day. With controlling his water, I would give it to him at both meals and then maybe 2 or 3 times during the day. But as soon as he's done, take it away. Now, a couple things to look for, just that he has to go to the bathroom, because we're going to teach you how to use the bells, and that he already knows the bells. You saw him ring it once. But if you get him out of the crate in the morning, I would take him directly over, let him ring the bell, go out to the bathroom. If he wakes up from a nap in the middle of the day, I would take him to the bells and take him outside to go to the bathroom. Also, if he wakes up from a nap and he starts pacing around, that's a good indicator he has to go, or if he starts doing circles. Also, he goes about an hour after he eats. Another thing is I would keep a short leash attached to him while he's in the house. That way, if for some reason he does try and squat, or you need a quick correction, you can grab that leash and quickly get him out. So, now we'll show you how to kind of teach him where the bells are at in your house, because this is going to be the most hands-on. He understands here where the bells are, what they mean, where he's allowed to go. He's going to have to relearn where and that it means the same thing at your house. So I'm going to teach you the way that I do it. And I start, which I'll warn you, that the goal of this, doing it this way, is to get him to ring the bell as much as possible. You want a lot of repetitions in these first 2 weeks. The way that I put it is 2 weeks of inconvenience of taking him out a lot for a house-trained dog. Because we get him to where he is no longer having any accidents here, he's consistently ringing the bell, he's showing that he knows what it means, but you're going to have to show him that you expect the same behavior at your house. So I'll start with what we call targeting the bell. And so that's just getting him to ring it. Come here. And so when I do that, come here, I'll sit him in front of me and I'm just going to hold the bells. Okay. And every time he touches it, I'll say, okay. And it's just making it basically a game. Okay. Once he's actively, okay, hitting the bells like that, I'm going to move over to the door. And have him start ringing it on the door. Okay. When he's doing that quite a bit, okay. I'll switch the wording a little bit. Okay. And I'll use the word outside. Okay, outside. Good boy. Okay, outside. Okay, outside. You're going to do that. Once he starts getting to this point, okay, outside. I'm going to take him out on this next one. Okay, outside, outside, good boy. And I'm going to take him to the spot where we've already designated where he can go. Okay, outside. Okay. Now, once he's been doing that, when you get to your house, I would let him ring it about 3 or 4 more times right here and take him back out. You want to make sure that he's ringing it consistently. Now I'm going to take him away for a second just because once you do that, he's going to want to ring him quite a bit. And of course that's good for the first little bit at your house because you want those repetitions. But if I hang him back up right now, I won't be able to talk. So, but you want those repetitions. So after I've done that, take him out 3 or 4 times. If he goes, or when he goes, make it very positive. Okay, good outside, good boy, good boy. Give him treats, lots of loves. Make it very, very positive, and come right back in the house. It's important that if he rings the bell, it's to the potty spot, coming back in. No playing, no messing around. It's just strictly business. Now, after you've taken him out 3 or 4 times right there doing that little exercise, I would set a timer for 30 minutes. Now, at the end of that timer, I'd take him by the leash over, stand right here, stare at the bells, let him ring it. Reward, good out, or outside, okay, outside. Go out, give him an opportunity to come back in. I would keep that timer of 30 minutes for the next probably 2 days, making sure that you're staying ahead of his pee schedule. Now, our standard is 2 hours without needing a break. He's definitely surpassed that, but once again, you don't want to give him the opportunity to have an accident in your house, so it's much better just to stay ahead of his schedule. And after maybe those 2 days, start building it back up to those 2 hours. And I would also, if you have a very large house or a carpeted area where you do not want accidents, you might want to block off one room or half your house or whichever for the first couple days. Usually it takes about 2 weeks for them to start really actively ringing it on their own again. I've had some dogs as early as the next day they're ringing the bell. Every dog's different just depending on how the transition stresses them out. But he's done great. I can't even remember the last time we had an accident in the house. He's been actively ringing the bell just wonderfully. If you do have any questions regarding the house training, how to transition it, or if you're, whatever, just give me a call and I'll help you. But he's done great. He's just been a really good dog. And so with that, now we'll talk about his leash training. So with his leash training, we take them on 2 types of walks. One being a long lead walk. That's just for him to, run around. He can drag that leash, but just for him to be a dog. Get out, sniff, run, play. You can really work on that come command right there. But that's just for his mental health. The second type of walk is our attention walk, which is a basic heel. I expect him by my side with a loose leash. And we have 2 commands there. One is let's go, just so you can find we're moving. Hey. The other is is easy if he ever starts to pull. What, you just really want some attention right now? Huh? But we'll go outside and I'll show you that walk. A couple things with easy before we go is one, I tell my trainers to become a tree. Never let him pull through. If he starts to pull, I'm going to stop, I'm going to root myself, and I'll give him a leash correction. 2 pops on the leash and tell him easy. And make sure that he then puts the slack back in the leash and stops pulling. But we'll go out on the road and I'll show you that. So before I start a walk, I want to make sure that I have his attention. And so I like to put him in a sit before, get him kind of focused, and then I'll tell him, let's go. like to make sure that he's by my side with a loose leash, and I'll reward him occasionally for paying attention to me and not getting distracted. Okay, let's go. Okay, let's go. Good boy. Now if he does start to pull, I'll tell him easy, and I expect him to come back and put that slack. So that's exactly what we want. Good boy, Gary. Sit. Now, let me know if you have any questions. Gary really is a sweetheart. He's just been a wonderful dog. Very, very smart. He does have a little bit more of a dominant personality, which is fine. Some dogs do, but he's very, very smart. He's just a lover. He loves us, and we love him. So I hope you enjoy, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Let's go.